it's our pleasure today to visit the Dualsky factory, and joining us is owner Orville Sheng, and he's going to take us for a bit of a tour of his operation here. The process for manufacturing the Dualsky motors starts in the warehouse. So Orville buys a lot of parts in and then checks them. Now Orville, you were telling me earlier that you buy some parts but you also make your own. Why do you buy some of the parts in?
You know, in China, some factory make the CNC part, for example, by themselves. But I buy the CNC part from other country, which is near the Dualsky, not so far. Why we buy it from outside? Because if we find some mistake, we can return it. If we made by ourselves, sometimes it's hard to maybe we use it.
Yes. So it's really it's a quality decision that Orville wants to have the best quality product. So he works with other manufacturers that are quality manufacturers, and as he said, if they send you a bad product, he can send it back. His first step of the process is to actually check the quality of every component before he starts the assembly. So after Orville's team have checked the quality of the components, they start building the stator. Now, all the electronics are done in-house here at Dualsky. So this machine here, it costs about $10,000 to have one of these machines, and Orville's got two winding machines, just two winding machines.
Two.
So the way the winding machine works is over here it controls the number of windings, and the number of windings will depend on the type of motor. Then over here is the actual winding mechanism. The wire thickness will change also depending on the motor. It's a sort of semi-manual process. The winding part is done automatically, but the worker has to sit here and change the rotor, is it? The stator rotor. And the modules here on the machines will also be changed depending on the type of motor. Orville was showing me the two different types of wire that he uses in the manufacturing process. So I've got one here on my left, and this one over here. Now the difference between the two, you can probably see that the colour is slightly different, and what that indicates is that the enamelling, the insulation is slightly different. Now with this one over here, it's the insulation is not as resistant to high temperature as much as this one over here. This is more of a high temperature wire. The difference is that with the insulation coating here, not even a soldering iron or solder will stick to that insulation, so there is another process to remove some of the insulation, which adds a little bit more cost, but the quality of this wire is really, really good. This wire over here, quality is still high, but you can solder directly. So where are these wires used? Well, these are more for the entry-level products, still high quality, good reliability, but for the higher range, for the higher output motors, the bigger size motors that we see in a lot of the large-scale aircraft, the GA series, and what was the other series you said? EA series, are using this high temperature insulation coating, and what that means is a better product for you. So once the stator has been wound, it goes into a testing process. But before that, as we mentioned with the wire, especially this high temperature wire, you have to remove the insulation. So you can see one here where the insulation has been removed. Because the next step is to come over to the soldering station here and solder all these wires together. Now once the soldering process is complete, remember we're looking at quality here at Dualsky, there is a thorough testing process. It's a very simple machine, but one that works to very high tolerances. So we check each phase of the motor. So there are 3 phases to the motor, and Orville's team will check all the phases, and they must be exactly the same, correct?
Check each 2 phases.
Each 2 phases. So if the phase is not correct, then what happens, Orville?
Disassembly the wire.
Okay, so disassemble the wire, and when we mean disassemble the wire, they pull all the wire off and they start again to make sure that it's right. Orville was just telling me about this actual design here of the stator of the Dualsky motors, and he was telling me that they do get another manufacturer to manufacture this outside, what did you call it? What's this called?
Lamination.
The lamination. Anyway, and they make it to Orville's specification. But the materials, you were saying this material here is from Japan?
Yes, high quality.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the machine work is amazing. This is really quality.
Steel.
Sorry?
Silicon steel.
Silicon
Steel.
Silicon steel.
Silicon steel.
Silicon steel from Japan. So Orville is trying to source the best quality products that he can get. Once the team know that everything is working and the resistance is great across all the 3 different phases, we move to the heat shrinking step, the wires that we see coming out of the motors. And so over here, Orville's team will grab the various different size heat shrink materials and have a machine behind me over here that will cut to the right length.
Yes.
So cut to the right length, and then they slip them over the wires, ready for heat shrinking and soldering. Heat shrink is now on, and we move to the bullet connectors that are put onto the Eco range of motors. So when you buy the Eco range of Dualsky motors, they come already with the bullets attached. So this is where they're done at this station over here, and a whole batch are done at one time. Now, if you're buying the GA series motor, the high-end big power motors, then they do not come with the bullet connectors, but what they do is solder on some silicon wire ready for you to put your bullet connectors on at the end. So down the middle of the room is an assembly area where they have 4 workers assembling the motors, and what they're doing first off is grabbing the stator that they've tested and wound, etc., and connecting it to the front housing. And the way they connect it is simply by using a high strength epoxy glue and gluing the stator to the housing. Now, to set the glue, this whole assembly is put into an oven which is behind me that is heated to 60 degrees. This whole unit will be left in there for 1 hour before final assembly. These are the ovens that are used to cure that epoxy, 60 degrees for 1 hour. Then once they're finished, we asked Orville if they ever cook any bread or any pizza in here because it looks perfect for this job. So that we can identify each motor, the team here at Dualsky laser etch the name of the product, the KVs and the serial number on that front housing, making it really easy for us to make sure that we've got the right product in the right aircraft. So we've finished assembling the stator, and now we're going into the other side of the motor, which is the rotor. And that starts with laser etching the brand, the model number onto the case on the outside, and then we move along here. Now down this row is this assembly of the rotor section. And what we're doing over here is, you can see in this motor here that we have this back end cap here, and we've got this case. And we've also got the shaft for the propeller, the motor shaft there. So these components are press fit together. They're very, very, very tight fit. So they use a machine here to press fit. But not only that, they're using that same kind of epoxy, that really super strong epoxy, to epoxy this on as well to make sure that it's a nice solid fit. Then we keep on moving down here. Once they've press fit the whole assembly, they check for roundness using this machine here. If the case is not round, then it's discarded. Only the best will get through. So then we keep on moving on here, another machine for press fitting. And over here we have a machine that puts in the magnets. The magnets are inside the case here, are very, very vital to the motor. They are also epoxied in, using that same epoxy. Now that epoxy can make a bit of a mess, so we want everything to be clean. So the last step in this process is to clean the excess glue off everything. And then guess where it ends up? Back in the oven. Orville was explaining to us the difference in magnets. Not all magnets are the same, and not all quality of magnets are the same. Now, of course, Dualsky are looking for the best quality magnets because they produce a better end result. Now, there are 2 types of magnets that they're using here. One is actually a curved magnet, and one is a straight magnet. Now, the curved magnets are generally used in the higher output motors, the higher end motors. They provide more torque, more power, and the efficiency is not too bad with them either. With these ones, they are using straight magnets. They provide really excellent efficiency, but may not produce the same amount of power. But no matter which choice they make, the best quality magnets are being used. Now, anyone involved in electronics knows that heat is the killer of components. Now, Orville was telling me that the magnets that they use can withstand 150 degrees and upwards of that, whereas the industry standard is generally around 80 degrees. Now what that means is that when you buy a Dualsky motor, you're going to have a motor that is built with quality components so that it can last and it can perform throughout its life. Our rotor now has the magnets applied, epoxied in place. It's been in the oven at 60 degrees for 1 hour to let that epoxy to set, and now we move into another testing phase. Over here we have two machines that are used for checking the balance of the rotor, which is critical in an electric motor, especially in our model aircraft. So what they do is they grab this motor. This one here is used for larger size motors and this one over here for smaller size. They attach the rotor to the test rig. The rotor is spun up to 4,000 revs per minute, and sensors are sensing any vibration in that housing. The operator can see if the rotor is out of balance, and then what they can do is apply some epoxy to get that rotor back into balance. Now what they do here at Dualsky is a little bit different to a lot of other motor manufacturers. When they balance the motor, they're balancing both the front end and the rear end of the rotor, which is critical to get the ultimate in balance. So what they do is they'll apply that additional epoxy, if required, to both ends of the rotor housing, and it's just a special epoxy is used to do that, the similar epoxy that's used to glue everything together. We're now at the final assembly stage. This is where we grab our stator and our rotor and we connect them all together. And we do a bit more than that as well. We're adding our prop hubs, we're adding stoppers on the end of the motor as required. We're also doing one very, very, very vital step, and that is getting this gap right between that stopper and the housing itself, that we don't want any slop, any play. So the way they manage that is by using these little tiny washers, and there's various different thicknesses of washers that the workers will use to set that gap perfectly, so it's a nice precise fit. Now there's one other thing I want to mention whilst we're here, is this is where they will put in the bearings, and the bearings that Dualsky are using are high quality bearings. They come from Japan, with some sourced locally from a high quality manufacturer not far from Shanghai, where we are at the moment. So only the best components are going in there. So that gap is essential. Selecting the right washer is a must. We have a finished motor, but we're not totally done yet, because we go through another testing phase, and this is a really, really critical phase, probably one of the most important of all of the testing phases. So what we're doing here is we're checking a couple of things. We've got a test rig set up here with an ESC, Dualsky ESC being used, and we just power up that motor, and we're checking the kV value first. We're making sure that the kV of the motor is exactly according to the specifications. Then what we're also checking is the idle current. Now the idle current that they're looking for is 10 volts across all the motors. If both of those figures match up with the specification of the motor, all things are good. If not, well, it goes back to the final assembly team to try to work out what the problem is and to rectify it. If it can't pass the test, then it's going to be scrapped. Experienced technicians are used here at this phase, because not only are they using meters to check the idle voltage and the kV rating, they are also running that motor up, and they're listening to the motor to make sure that everything is running smoothly, and then watching that motor to make sure that it's nice and smooth as well. So you have to have a good ear and a good eye to make sure that this motor is up to Dualsky quality. Our finished motor needs one more thing. It needs its packaging, and Dualsky really have probably the highest quality that we've seen out there in the marketplace when it comes to packaging. So Orville's paying a lot of attention to that. So the packaging is not only looks great, there's a lot of foam packaging in there, and all the accessories are included. So you get your motor mount, you get the propeller hub, you get all the screws that are required to get this motor into your aeroplane. So behind me is the Dualsky warehouse. That's where all the finished products will end up. Now, come for a walk with me, because I just want to show you a few things here. Dualsky have a massive range of products here. Small drone motors for racing drones, gimbal motors, large scale 60cc, 40cc, 30cc size motors, and everything in between. So a massive range, but there's a lot of other things. There's tuning combos there. There's over here we have little drone motors. Further down here I saw some other things. We have regulators, for regulating voltage. There's another thing they do over here. Keep on following me down here. Now this is something I want to show you, is Dualsky's range of servos. Now, Dualsky are using their own brushless motors in these servos, and they're assembling these servos, and now available around the world. High quality motors in these servos, what you'd expect coming from Dualsky. One great thing that Dualsky does is they manufacture their own ESCs for their motors. So anything from the tiny little 6 ampere up to 120, 130 amp ESC that can peak up to 150 amp for those larger applications. I've got an 80 ampere in my hands here, and of course a tiny little 6 ampere. Now the good thing about these ESCs, they're designed in-house to match the Dualsky motors. So if you're buying a Dualsky motor, it probably makes sense to buy the corresponding ESC. Got a couple of regulators here that Dualsky manufacture. On my left hand here, we've got a regulator that's been out for a while and is perfect for sort of smaller applications and great for regulating voltage for, say 30cc if you want to go down that path. But on my right hand here, we have a relatively new product for Dualsky, which is a larger regulation unit used for larger scale aircraft, such as a 60cc, 100cc model plane or jets as well. Now the advantage of this little unit here is it's really, really simple to use. You can regulate to 7.4 volt, 6.6 volt or 6 volt just by flicking a switch on the side here. You can have 2 batteries, so it manages battery redundancy, which is what we recommend for larger scale applications. It has 18 channels. So you can do servo matching, etc., through your radios for up to 18 channels right away. This unit is compatible with the Futaba S-Bus system, but it is also available for Spectrum and also Jetty. Now, another great feature of this new regulation unit is this awesome switch that the team have designed here. It's an electronic switch that fails to the on position if it does fail. But it's such a slim line. It's got a beautiful feel to it. You can turn both your batteries on through this switch and it would look awesome on the side of your aircraft. So can't wait to put one of these in one of my planes. Orville founded the Dualsky business 15 years ago. Now, Orville, tell us a bit about why you started Dualsky.
Oh, because I love to fly. Around 15 years before, I flew the Nitro.
Yeah.
And some new electric power system is.
They came around.
Yes. So I flew the electric, and I love electric.
Yeah.
So I think I can do. I thought I can do some product with the electric system, power system.
Yeah, so Orville's a bit of an electronics whiz, so hence being able to produce the Dualsky products. Now, I've seen Orville fly, and he is an amazing pilot. What are you flying now?
Now I flying the F3P, and the Jet, and the 3D freestyle.
Yeah. So he's covering a lot of bases. I've seen some video of him flying his indoor planes, amazing. Saw him out at the field flying a plane yesterday. And also, sport jet. Are you one of the champions now in China for sports jets?
Yes, third place.
Third place in sports jets.
Yes.
So he's doing a lot here. And not only that, he's also the local Extreme Flight and Sebart dealer in China.
Yes.
So Orville is a very, very busy man. Orville, we've seen the quality processes that you go through to build your products. Obviously, you've got a lot of designers that work with you.
Yes.
So, and with that design process, are you very involved in working out what to manufacture?
Yes. In fact, in Dualsky, I am the product manager.
Yeah.
And we build the product reliable and looks nice.
Yeah.
And it match the application well.
Yeah.
For example, our new product Gym now.
Yeah.
It redundant power supply for the jet and the gasoline engine.
Yeah. So that Gemini, the new Gemini power distribution board is just it shows you put a lot of thought into making something that is so simple yet so practical, and the quality looks excellent once again.
Yeah.
Now tell me a bit about the workers that you have here. What do you look for in the workers? How old are your workers and how experienced are they?
Most of our workers are young guy.
Yep.
Yeah, they have had the well training, and we teach them to know each point very well, and some of them are also fly RC models.
Yeah.
So they know the quality control point very well.
We've met some of Orville's workers, and they are a fine bunch of guys that love the hobby, and so that helps. And Orville was telling me how they train all the workers along the process, and they can't progress to the next level unless they really have mastered that one level. And the aim is that they fully understand the whole process. And as you can imagine, there's so many different products to manufacture. They really need to know how to work well. How many workers do you have here at Dualsky?
30. 30 workers here. Actually, it's around 50 for assembly, final assembly, and the product line, and 10 more workers for business.
Okay, so 10 workers for business and the rest on the manufacturing line. How many days do you manufacture? What is the working week? Is it 5 days a week or 6 days a week here in China?
Normally it's 5 days.
Yeah, and they start work at what time and finish?
The work starts 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And stop
Yeah, they finish at.
It's finished at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock
PM.
And they have 1 hour a lunch break as well. Beautiful offices here, nice and air conditioned, extremely clean. It's actually a very nice place to work, and keeping that environment clean is very important in an electronics business. So you're doing a very, very good job. Do the workers like working here at Dualsky?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because the Dualsky has very good reputation in the market.
Yeah.
So people know that.
And are you happy with the business?
Yes, sure. I love RC. I fly RC model firstly, then I build the Dualsky. So I love it and enjoy it.
Yeah, well, it's always great. A lot of people don't understand that here in China, a lot of the people that create businesses for the hobby absolutely have a very, very strong passion. This man, we've seen where he lives, we've seen his aircraft, and he's one of the most dedicated aero modelers you will find anywhere in the world. Now, Dualsky is a global brand now. You're selling all around the world. You're in America, you're in Europe, of course in Australia, basically everywhere you can build a business. So here in Shanghai, this man here is leading the way across the world with quality electronic components for our hobby. So thank you, Orville, very much. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
And it's great to be here in your company. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.